All right, well, good morning and welcome. We're thrilled to have you for today's webinar on the Krannert Professional Development Center. My name is Nick Rambo, and I'll kind of be organizing today's conversation. But I'd like to introduce you to the rest of the members of our team. So I'm going to go around the table here and introduce everyone. First off, we have Wendy Dukes. Wendy is the Director of Corporate Stewardship and Alumni Engagement with the Krannert Professional Development Center. Wendy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been at Purdue?
Hi. Again, I'm Wendy, Director of Corporate Stewardship and Alumni Engagement. I've been at Purdue for about 1.5 years, and what I primarily do is work out opportunities for students to get in contact with our alumni through networking and one-on-one chats.
Excellent. Thanks, Wendy. Chris Luby is our Associate Director for Career Counseling. Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, good morning or good evening, wherever you're at. I've been with Krannert since May of 2009. My primary focus now is working to coordinate workshops, the Krannert Launch Initiative, onboarding process, and the Launching Global Leaders course, in addition to day-to-day career coaching for students.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Claudine is our Associate Director for Graduate Outreach. Claudine, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, everyone. I've been at Purdue University since August of 2006. Beginning my career in career services at the Center for Career Opportunities and coming to Krannert in my current position in July of 2013. Right? Wow. And in my role, I build relationships with employers so that they hire our students. I do a lot of travel, and I'm responsible for building our City Tech program as well as bringing in new employers to campus.
Excellent. Thanks, Claudia. And we'll certainly get into a little bit more specific conversations on some of the things that you mentioned. Of course, my name is Nick Rambo, and I am a recruiter here for both the MBA and some of our specialized master's degrees. So I'll kind of be guiding the conversation today. And to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about, first off, we're going to get everyone's opinion on, what is the KPDC, which is the shortened version of the Krannert Professional Development Center. We'll talk about why it's unique, what resources they offer, how alumni get connected, and then we'll wrap up with a section on why you might want to choose Krannert for either an MBA or a specialized master's degree. And at that point, we'll open it up for some Q&A. So, just to give you a little bit of an overview on the KPDC. They have 7 full-time employees, 3 of whom are sitting around the table today, so we are thrilled to be joined by such a great panel. We also have 3 advisors in residence, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about what that means. All told and all combined, there are more than 150 years of experience represented by the people in the Krannert Professional Development Center. And that's talking about, the industry experience that they have and they bring into their roles. We have 5 different alumni inclusion programs, and we're very proud of our 89% domestic employment 3-year average. So that just gives you a little bit of information about the KPDC by the numbers. And at this point, we're going to dive right into our conversation for the day. I think we're going to go around the room here, and since we have different perspectives on what the KPDC is, we're going to kind of go around and get everyone's thoughts and opinions on what it means to them, through their unique lens. So why don't we start with you, Chris? Why don't you tell us about what the Krannert Professional Development Center is to you?
Yeah, so thanks, Nick. The Krannert Professional Development Center, to me, is the student hub to all things professional development here at Krannert. Coaches are available anytime for students to come talk with, resume review, mock interview. If you have some concerns about an upcoming internship, how to set your priorities correct so you feel good, you don't have those same, you can work through some of the challenges you're facing. In addition, we have relationships with numerous employers, professional organizations, consultants and speakers within the industry that we always try to build those so that students have access to them through us. We're located right in Rawls, so students can just stop in between classes. We don't have to charge across campus to come see us. We're right there all the time, and we're available for you.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Wendy, let's pass it on over to you. Obviously, you have a different role and different perspective. You don't have quite the same history that Chris does. So tell us what KPDC is for you.
Well, KPDC is more than just a career center. That's why we have professional development in the title. So we encourage students to come in and sit down with their coaches so that they can have deep conversations to really determine what their strengths are, what their passions are, and determine what path they should be taking when it comes to their ultimate career choice. So it's more than just a career service center. It is professional development.
Excellent. Thanks, Wendy. And Claudia, let's pass on over to you as well. Obviously, you kind of have maybe the most different view on it, just because of your relationships with the different corporate folks. So, talk to us about what KPDC is for you.
Right. So, from the very beginning, since our onboarding in the summer, to when they come for orientation, one of the things I am preaching is what are your target companies? Because I'm very company focused. And I'm very job search focused. Obviously, you're coming to get a master's or an MBA to get a job. And I'm also lead the job search team. So one of the things that I'm coaching my students, who are all assigned students, is what are you doing to build your kind of toolkit to get a job? So students can come in, meet with a coach, and I'm always talking to them, okay, what clubs are you joining? What organizations are you joining? What are you a part of across campus? To not just pad your resume, but build your skill set. What are you getting involved with? And, let's talk about that. Let's, see where you can enhance your skills. And so students, are not just, they're coming in and talking to us and digging deep to learn more about themselves and get involved. And then we are talking to them about what companies they want to work at, what are their target companies. And then we're teaching them how to network to build relationships with those companies so they can then hopefully get a job or an internship at those jobs. So we are working with them. Like Wendy said, and Chris said, they can come in at any time. They don't need an appointment. We have an open door policy, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit more later.
Right.
To come in and talk to us. And, it's very unique and it's very personal.
Well, thanks for that. I think that, as I'm out interfacing with people at different career events, KPDC is one of my favorite things to talk about that we have here at Krannert. It really helps them, help students, again, find that sort of, dream career. Not that we're going to hand them a job when they come in, but certainly we're going to provide them with a variety of tools and resources to use to help them advance their skill sets as well as their career perspective. So, as Claudia said, we're kind of going to get into our next conversation now, which is really more about what makes the KPDC unique. So, Wendy, let's come on back to you for a moment. Claudia mentioned sort of that open door policy. But when we met prior to this meeting to sort of go over our talking points, you were talking about how KPDC really has kind of a boutique feel. So why don't we dive into that a little bit and talk about how that makes KPDC unique?
Yeah, I think one of our strengths is that we have a very diverse group of career coaches that can help the students whenever they want. And because our program is on the small side, we're able to service all of our students at any time they want to, and they don't necessarily have to make an appointment. If you compare that to a larger university, most of the students have to make an appointment, and it might take them a week to meet with a coach. But at Krannert, our students can just walk in anytime they want to, and whoever's available can sit down and talk with a student with any issue they have at that particular time.
Because when you talk about how, because of the smaller size of our MBA cohort, which is only 77 this year, it sort of has that smaller feel, right? And so students are able to come in and see a familiar face. It's not, someone who knows their story. It's not that they kind of have to sit down and rehash their goals and things like that, because everybody's sort of familiar with who they are and what their story is. Now, Chris, let's kind of shift over to you for a moment. When we talked before, you had mentioned how, it wasn't always KPDC. It wasn't always the Krannert Special Development Center. For a long time, it was, when you had arrived, it was sort of just career services, which is a fairly standard offering at most universities. So why don't we dig into that for just a moment and talk about, sort of what that change signified and how that all happened.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So, as I mentioned, I've been with the office for almost 8 years, and about 5 years ago, our director at the time made a very intentional change strategically to go from career services to professional development. Now, it's easy to point at that and say, well, okay, it's just a name, but really, it really marked a sea change for how we look at ourselves and what we think the value is that we provide to students. Some of the things that we've added to our offerings since that change is a leadership course that we'll talk a little bit more about later, but that's something that we're intimately involved with. We want students to view professional development not just as getting that first internship or that full-time role, but lifelong. We serve you as a student, and then when you become an alumnus, that doesn't change. You're still able to come talk to us because we want to build relationships because of the intimate setting that we have where you feel comfortable coming back year after year. And you've got friendly faces where you can ask questions to say, okay, I've hit 3 years out. What do I do now? How do I make the move to the next company that I like?
Excellent. That's great insight. And let's kind of stick with you for a minute. I think one of the things that I talk about when I'm introducing the KPDC to prospective students is how we onboard those students, right? How we're able to bring them alongside KPDC, and even before they come to campus, right? I also say that we reach out to you in the summertime, and you mentioned that just a moment ago. So why don't you explain to us a little bit about how students are onboarded? So that's our term that we use, but how are students brought alongside KPDC even before they arrive on campus?
Yeah, so we started the past few years in the summer before the August semester starts, as early as May 15th. Really what we do is we want to connect with students as soon as we can as they're ready to join Krannert in the MBA or MS programs. So we reach out to students, we introduce ourselves through a nice video that kind of lays out our office goals and our team, and then we want students to complete what we call a career interest survey. This is something where we want to get to know you. We can't be effective unless we can start building that rapport right away. If students don't trust us or they don't feel like we know what matters to them, that relationship is difficult to get up to speed quickly. So that's one of the first things we do. And then each student is assigned a career coach through the office, and over the summer you will set up a meeting with them where you're going to go through your resume draft, and then you're going to just get to know this person. You're going to talk, hey, tell me about yourself. What kind of things make you tick? What do you hope you've accomplished when you graduate and leave here with your diploma? It really helps us to understand how we can serve you best and what kind of expectations you have on us and how we can work together. I mentioned the resume draft. We are partners with a company called ZMOC. You may have seen that at other schools. Really, this is really the forefront of technology and resume screening. So we really think this is a huge value add to students because in addition to these conversations to get to know, we've got this the standard for resume screening that we use to help your resume get ready as early as possible. Career fairs come fast and furious in the fall, and it's incredibly important that you have your resume ready. We put you through a StrengthsFinders assessment, so again, you know how to best position yourself with those companies. And then again, creating a target company list. Now, Claudine mentioned it earlier. If you don't know what's best about you, know how to demonstrate that in a resume, and then know which companies you should put that in front of, that's really how you're going to be the most successful, and that's what we work to during the summer before you get really busy in your classes in the fall.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. At this point, we're going to transition into, your conversation sort of led into this topic already, but we're going to talk about some of the resources that KPDC can provide. Claudine, let's shift over to you for a moment. Chris mentioned a lot about this career coaching, and earlier we talked about these advisors and residents. So can you give our listeners just a little bit of a rundown on what we're talking about? We talk about career coaching and advisors and residents.
Yeah, so all the students are assigned to a career coach, and all three of us coach students, and then we have Jean Eisnick, Craig Hansen, Randall Lewis, and then we have three advisors of residents, Sue, Alan, and Chris, that are part-time advisors of residents. And all those students are assigned to us. They can see any of the coaches. They don't have to see any of them. So an example is one of Jean's students came in to see me last week to prepare for the career fair. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, actually even remember how that happened. It just was that I was available and we connected, and then I worked with her on her resume, and then the day of the career fair, Jean helped her with her elevator pitch some more, and then I helped her, and then she went and really rocked the career fair and got 2 interviews. That was mainly, so yeah, she rocked the career fair. So, but our advisors and residents, they have lots of years of experience. Chris Gertie was at Eli Lilly for several years. Sue was at Sodexo for a number of years, and Alan was at McDonald's for a number of years, yeah. So they have lots of years of experience, they're great coaches.
And it sounds like it's even in different industries. It's not just that they all have the same experience. It's a very diverse,
very diverse background. And then, our director, Randall Lewis, was at several different corporate organizations over the years. We're sorry.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
General or GE, Wells Fargo, and Anthem, WellPoint, yeah. So lots of years of experience, and then Gene Eisnick ran his own company, right?
He was president of a company called Aerial Fill Industries.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I have to say that we have a very broad array of experience that our career counselors can help students with. So sometimes if you're interested in one thing about perhaps getting into healthcare or going to manufacturing, whatever, can hook you up with the right person. And all that, of course, to prepare students for the many career fairs that we have here. Now at the university, we have more than, I think, 30 career fairs each year. I think the statistic I heard most recently is we had more than 1,700 recruiters on campus, and nearly 200 of which were specifically looking for students from Krannert. So whether it's a career fair that's hosted in Rawls Hall here, or one that's hosted by the university in a more general way, there's lots of opportunities for students to connect to different recruiters and things like that. So what do we stick with you, Claudia? Why don't you talk about some of the career fairs that we have here, maybe even specifically the one that we host here at Krannert?
So we do host a career fair in the fall for master's and MBA students, specifically for our students. It's typically a smaller fair because we, have a smaller number of students.
Sure.
This year, I believe we had 18 companies for that fair. However, there are, as you mentioned, we're doing closer to 40 fairs campus-wide. The largest being the Industrial Roundtable, which is a technical and engineering fair. Considering a lot of our MBA and master's students have a technical background or an engineering background, it's a great fair for our students to go to. That Industrial Roundtable is held in early September, and there's about 400 companies over 2 days.
Right. Yeah, we actually participated in that fair last year. And it was interesting because as we looked out across the landscape of all the students that were there, milling about, talking to different companies, you could really pick out who the Krannert students were, because they were considerably better dressed, first of all. But also their ability to connect with those recruiters, I think it was more natural because they had been coached, specifically the ones that had used the resources that we offer through KPDC. You could see how they were sort of methodically going through their elevator pitches and really understanding how to best present their resume. So as I stood there watching, you could really kind of pick out who the Krannert students were. So that was fun for me.
The good thing about the Industrial Roundtable, the Computer Roundtable, the Undergraduate Business Career Fair, all the career fairs have a booklet, whether it's online or hard copy, that identifies what employers are looking for business students. So the students don't have to guess. It also identifies what companies will be looking for international students. And then the students can come in and talk to any of the coaches, and we can also help them identify how they might identify companies that may not have identified they're looking for international students, so we can help them work through that as well. But, they should not just rely on that master's and MBA career fair with all the other career fairs on campus. And there's also a number of other career fairs. We had students last year go to a career fair at another university, and a number of them got opportunities.
Oh, nice.
So there's national career fairs as well that we encourage our students to attend.
Excellent.
So,
well, I mentioned, we're able to prepare students better with some of those, resume workshops and really working on the elevator pitch. That's not even necessarily something limited to that onboarding process, like Chris talks about. So let's shift back over to you, Chris, just for a moment here. I know that we host a variety of resume workshops, mock interviews, elevator pitch reviews, things like that. Can you guys talk to us about, how often those happen and really what the purpose of those are?
Yeah, sure. The big kind of offering of workshops is conducted during orientation, which for MBA and Masters in HR students is called Krannert Launch. And we have been lucky to have 5 days worth of programming that we get students right before they start classes in the fall, and we get their full attention, which is great. It's an opportunity for us to really focus on what we consider the basic skills of job searching. So you're going to be able to practice your elevator pitch. You're going to be able to mock interview. You're going to be able to learn how to best network with alumni. In fact, this past year when we did it, we had over 20 alumni that came back to help with that. These are students that, anywhere from 2 to 10 years out from the program, on their own cost, they wanted to come back to meet the new crop of students and just be a part of the excitement that is, the beginning of another student's program, and lend whatever expertise they had to that process. It's really been intentional by us to fold more alumni into those, but also to have students spend this time as effectively as possible, so when they leave that week of Krannert Launch, they have really developed foundational tools that they can deploy at the career fairs within weeks after that. When it comes to workshops offered after Krannert Launch, we have the International Student Series, so speakers like Marcelo Barros, author of The International Advantage, Neil Curry, who was a professional recruiter for Johnson & Johnson for years, comes in to speak with students. Dan Beaudry, he also is on campus and available to talk with students. Those are just to name some that focus specifically on international student needs. But then we also bring in one which is really exciting. It's Mark Cosentino, really a former Harvard professor, spends a lot of time at the top business schools teaching the case interviewing method. I tell you, the information he presents is second to none. He's really viewed as the top person in that space, and we're lucky to get him every year, and students always love that session. So that's an offering that we have for students, early on, so you can feel good about case interviewing.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Chris. Wendy, I haven't heard from you for a little bit here, so let's focus on you for a moment. I know that we offer a variety of networking opportunities. So kind of like you to dig into that a little bit. Tell us, what sort of things we're able to offer students as far as networking goes. Because as they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So that's very important for us to be able to help students make those connections.
Oh, that's interesting you said that quote. I always take that quote a step further and say it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
There you go.
So that's why we do provide a lot of networking opportunities at Krannert. And the first one that we provide to students is actually at Krannert Launch. To Chris's point, we had over 20 alumni present for Krannert Launch, and that gives students from day one an opportunity to network with our Krannert alumni. One thing I do want to point out about Krannert alumni is that our network is very, very large. And I think that's one thing that Krannert prospective students can look forward to. There is an alum probably at just about every company you're interested in and just about every region you might be interested in. And to facilitate those connections, we have alumni networking events. So we had one at Krannert Launch. And when we have city treks, we usually have an alumni networking event. We also have virtual networking opportunities, and we have this really cool platform that we use where students can actually chat with alumni from all over the world over the computer. And then we also set up opportunities for students to have mock interviews with alumni, not in person but virtually. So this provides an additional opportunity for our students to network with Krannert alumni. And then finally, the resources in KPDC. the coaches again. You can go to a coach anytime, and if you would like to get connected with an alum, we can do that for you. We keep a list of alumni that have volunteered to speak with students on just about any subject they want to. And all the student has to do is go to their coach and request that they get connected with an alum. And we can do that right on the spot.
Great. Well, thanks. That's, I don't want to forget something. Christine mentioned earlier about that sort of proprietary leadership education course. And that's sort of the last piece, I think, in the KPDC resources that I want to cover. So let's just take everybody just for a moment. Tell us a little bit about our LGL program.
Yes, LGL is actually an acronym for this class, which is specifically titled Launching Global Leaders, where KPDC takes the lead role in organizing this course. And essentially, it's a series of different speakers, which are either executive level speakers. This past year, we've had Rick Smith, who is the CEO of Equifax. He's also a Krannert alum. He came in and spoke to students. We also have what we call subject matter experts. So there's specific competencies that we expect students to be proficient in or be working towards proficiency in, such as communicating. So we brought in a specialist that teaches materials in crucial conversations and really helps students identify some tactics and techniques to be able to have difficult conversations. Not avoid them, but really have to move forward and how can you be most effective in those areas. We also use simulations as part of this course. So we have a great exercise where students basically take on a role where they are responding to a series of emails where they have a real strict deadline and a lot of different elements in the email. So how do they prioritize where they spend their time? Is it okay to delegate something to somebody else? Is it okay to really just touch base and say, hey, can we work on this a little bit later? And then which ones do you have to maybe make the decision to meet in person? So how do you prioritize your time and make sure that you're solving the most impactful problems right away? So this class is, again, it's a part of this larger professional development where we're taking these things and we're saying leadership is a lifelong course for Krannert students. Some of these things, they do provide networking opportunities, but really it's a long-term game so that students are introduced to these concepts. Either they can become proficient now or they can identify where their gaps are and then work through their time at Krannert and after to improve in those areas.
Excellent. Thanks for that explanation. I appreciate it. Our next conversation topic for today is going to be about how alumni are connected. As Wendy mentioned earlier, Purdue University is a massive alumni network. We're talking more than 450,000 people all around the globe. Now, all of those aren't necessarily Krannert graduates, but again, as we talked about, Purdue is a very STEM-oriented university, right? We have a great engineering program, and a lot of our engineers actually come into the MBA program as well, trying to take that next step in their career. So, as she said, if there's any company or any industry you're interested in getting involved in, there's an extreme likelihood that we're going to be able to connect you with someone from an industry. As you mentioned specifically for a city track program, and Claudine, I'm going to bring you into this conversation. I know that we actually just brought a group of students back from a city track last month, I think it was. So let's talk a little bit about what that was, what the program is, and really what benefit the city tracks provide our students.
Great. So the track that you're referring to is the one that Wendy went on was to San Francisco. And I'll have her talk about that. But actually the first city track that I planned after I started in July of 2014, was to Portland and Seattle.
Okay.
And I want to point out that one because it reaches past Krannert to that Purdue network. And we went to Portland and Seattle, and we visited Xerox, Nike, and Intel in Portland, and then we visited Amazon, Starbucks, and Zillow in Seattle. And most of those visits were with Krannert alumni, particularly we have a huge presence at Intel with, even though Intel doesn't recruit on campus, at Krannert they recruit MBA students every year from the MBA program.
Gotcha.
We had an MBA alum at Nike, and we had an alum at Xerox in Portland, and Amazon has this huge presence. We have tons of MBA alum there.
Absolutely, one of our best recruiters.
Right, but Starbucks and Zillow, we have some MBA alum there, but the Starbucks, Starbucks is near and dear to my heart. And
there are like 3 Starbucks cups on the table right now. That is not a lie.
Actually 4.
Yeah.
It was not a Krannert alum. It was a liberal arts alum that planned that visit for me, and it was an amazing visit. Howard Schultz actually walked by me. I think I almost fainted. And it was a great visit, and he was a kid that had just graduated a year ago, and he planned an amazing visit. Young kid, and same with Zillow. It was the VP of marketing, but he was not a Krannert alum. And that was a great visit as well. So
let's shift over to Wendy. Wendy, want to talk about the most recent city trip that we took, and specifically sort of what experiences the students were able to have on some of those company visits?
Sure. We took one to the San Francisco Bay Area, and to my knowledge, we hadn't been out there since 2012. And it was almost as if I was starting from scratch, reaching out to all the different companies. But because our alumni, again, our alumni network is pretty large, it was fairly simple to pick a couple of companies, identify an alum, make the call, and immediately they said yes. So to give you an example of the companies that we visited, they range from large companies to startups. And one of our companies that we visited is called TheRealReal.com. The CEO is actually a Krannert alum, and they're located in San Francisco. We also visited Tesla, and they're in Fremont. And the majority of our alumni come from the engineering and supply chain side. And then we also had the opportunity to go see Google and Facebook and Electronic Arts, where we also have alumni. It took place over the span of 3 days. And on the second to last day, we had a fairly decent-sized alumni networking reception. We had about maybe 50, 60 participants that came there. So even though Purdue is in the Midwest, we still have a pretty big connection to the Bay Area and the companies out there because of our alumni network.
Excellent. And it's great to be able to just go out and tour these facilities, but be able to do so through the lens of a Krannert graduate, right, or a Purdue graduate. That's going to give you that kind of that inside track into what life is really like. So that's one of the values that we're able to offer. That. Plus, you're going to San Francisco. No one's ever going to complain about that, right? Getting out to the West Coast. So let's shift first for a moment. We talked a lot about some of the different career fairs that we have and getting students connected to some of those great recruiters. But we also bring recruiters into the building just to be here kind of at random. So Claudine, why don't you talk to us about some of the different recruiters that will come here and visit?
Right. So most of the on-campus recruitment occurs in the fall. And those are our employers that either come to the career fair or come to recruit our students for on-campus interviews. Students need to be alert in the fall because they need to submit their resume to be considered for those positions and sign up for interviews through our on-campus recruitment. So, of course, as we talked about before, Amazon typically comes, and they also came in the spring, Amazon Lab 12615. That last week? Yeah, last week. Some of our other recruiters that came in the spring, or in the fall, I'm sorry. Phillips 66, Shell, AC Carney, Pepsi came.
And the nice thing about Pepsi Carney, I actually talked to the people that came from there. They were some of them were actually Krannert grads. So what I was about to say is that some of those recruiters that come back are actually more intimately familiar with not only the caliber of student that we create, but the program itself. So these alumni recruiters coming back to actually get students from the same program, I think it's a real benefit for our students.
I would say times out of 10 are almost always alumni that come back to do the recruiting, which is a really nice benefit.
Absolutely. So it sort of continues and enhances some of those alumni relationships, but also, again, they have those key insights into, how great our students are going to be for this company. Let's shift back to you, and as we're talking about alumni here, I know that earlier you had mentioned a program where students could come into their counselor and say, I want to talk to an alumni. That's called our ASK program, correct?
Yes.
Could you talk about that in our emissary program for those international students? Kind of talk about, as we close out our conversation today, how those programs are great at connecting students to alums?
Sure. The ASK program is alumni sharing knowledge. And what I usually do at the beginning of each school year is I'll reach out to alumni and see if we have volunteers for different functional areas where they feel very open to connecting with students so that they can find out more information about a particular industry and what to expect post-MBA. In order to get connected with one of these alums, a student just needs to ask their coach, and then the coach will check out the list and see who's the best fit, and then put the student in touch with that alumni. And then we also have the emissary program, which is where we have alumni that are in different parts of the world, where students can reach out to someone from their home country if they are looking to get connected in the country where they originated. So to give you an example, we have an emissary who's in China, and he's a Krannert alum. He's been out about 15 years, and he has several connections within the country. So if a student desires to seek out additional connections back in China, whether it's Shanghai or Beijing, I would put them in touch with the emissary, and the emissary would work with them one-on-one to get connected with alumni in the area. The last thing that we also have is something called the Alumni in Residence Program, and simply what that is when an alumni is on campus, and they'll contact us, and they'll say, hey, I'm going to be on campus during this week. Can I meet with students? So we'll set up things like lunch or a coffee hour or just a one-on-one chat session where it might be 10 students with one alumni, and it gives the students a really great opportunity to ask the alumni whatever questions they want. And this works out so much better than going to a big speech or a presentation with 300 students and trying to fight for time with the alumni. We make it very personable, and we make it very easy for students to connect.
Excellent. Well, obviously, it's going to help ultimately them succeed more, because again, it's about who you know and who knows you and what resources they can find in those arenas. So as we close out today's conversation, I thought it might be fun for us to go around and kind of talk about one of your favorite success stories, or just your favorite part of the job. Obviously, you're meeting with students every day, so I kind of want to hear your experience in real time. So, Claudia, why don't we start with you? We'll go in reverse order here of how we started. Well, why don't we start with you? You can kind of talk us a little bit about your favorite part of the job, or a particular success story that you like to share.
But I'm going last, I could talk forever.
Oh no, we're gonna rein in a little bit. You go first.
So my favorite part of the job, oh no, I love my job. I love working at Purdue for all 10 years, and I think my Facebook friends get sick of me talking about it. Not even lying. So I really do love working at Purdue. It's a great job. I don't have that Monday thing where I'm like, oh, it's Monday. I love coming to work. So one of my favorite success stories, I have a lot, but we have a recent alumni that now is a buyer at Target, and he gets to buy toys.
They're the worst gigs in the world, I imagine.
I know, right? I'm just like, oh, you're Santa Claus every day. But when he first came to Krannert, he wanted to go into finance. And he had a summer internship, and we won't talk about where, but he hated it. He was miserable. He came back from his summer. It wasn't the company, it was just what he did, and he hated finance. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I? But he had a long talk with Alan, one of our advisors in residence, and turned it around, and he is loving life right now. It's great. He was one of our alumni that came back for the summer, for orientation and help their students. He's going to be hosting us for our city trip to Minneapolis in March at Target, and it's just a great kind of turnaround story because a lot of students come back after their internship and like, what just happened? So I think we have a lot of stories like that, and he's just a really nice success story.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. Wendy, let me jump over to you. What's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part of the job is the personal development with students. So I've been coaching for 10 years, and prior to that I was in brand management. And people always ask, well, don't you miss brand management? And my answer always is, no, because I'm still doing it. And instead of managing a consumer product, I'm managing a people product. Right. And it's great to be able to see the transformation with students when they come in the first day and then when they graduate. So that's the one thing that I love about my job is assisting with that transformation in students and then essentially launching a brand new product at graduation. That's what I love.
Excellent. Chris, we saved you for last, so why don't you talk to us a little bit about maybe one of your favorite success stories or your favorite part of the job?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a student that comes to mind for me, and really this student story is probably not atypical for a lot of students that come through here, but it stuck out to me, and it happened about 5 years ago, and really we had a student come in, about 3 years experience in engineering, was ready to make a change, came to Krannert for his MBA, and when he went through his first year, he struggled with getting an internship, and eventually, I wouldn't call it settled, but really it wasn't one of his top ones, but he found a place that took him on in the summer, and really he focused on how can I make an impact? How can I leave this company better off in a really impactful way in the summer? And just, he stayed engaged, he stayed positive, and really he just focused on what he could do in the time he had. So when he came back in the fall, the fact that he was still positive about the process and still ready to put in the work and connect with people, he really demonstrated to me that he had learned some valuable skills and that really understood you just have to stay, you got to wake up every day and do things that may be hard or challenging or stretch you. Because like Wendy said, when you come in here and then you leave 2 years later, you're going to be a different person. Otherwise, we've failed, and Purdue has failed because you should be different when you leave here. And this student, just by staying positive, engaging, and continuing to push and meet and make relationships, we ultimately got a marketing role with Procter & Gamble, which was one of his top companies from the beginning, and just really, to me, again, not an atypical story, but is really indicative of what you can accomplish if you put the work in.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate hearing those. It's great. Success stories are your favorite part of the job. It's so nice to hear that we are able to help students and ultimately find personal fulfillment in some of those things. So thanks so much. As we wrap up today's session, I just wanted to take a few minutes just to talk to you about why you might want to choose Krannert. Of course, Purdue is recognized all around the world for quality. Everyone from U.S. News and World Report to the Wall Street Journal and Universal, they like to tell us how great we are. We don't always like to turn them down on that. The one ranking that's actually missing from this, last year BuzzFeed said that we have the #1 college bar in America, which is fantastic. It's just right next to our building here in the walls. Yeah, there it is. So we were very excited about that. So there are lots of reasons to choose Krannert, and here are a few in ranking form. But of course, when we talk about KPDC, we want to know that top companies are recruiting our students. So we talk about a lot of these companies: Amazon, Target, P&G, Deloitte. A lot of companies are here. They're actively interested in getting the best students in the country, and they often come to Purdue University. So as we talked about, we have lots of different career services that we offer, and we're really proud of the great network that we've built with many of those recruiters. Finally, we understand an MBA, some sort of specialized master's degree, they're very expensive. And while they are going to help you take the next step in your career by helping you, hone your skills or transition industry, something like that, we understand that the most important thing for you is you want to get the most out of that investment. Last year, Bloomberg ranked us the #3 MBA in the country for return on that investment. And that, again, comes in large part due to the many of the services that we're able to offer through KPDC. Again, we have that great global network of alumni, but really for those people who are entrepreneurial by nature, really want to find ways to apply their skills, we have many collaborative opportunities on campus that range from the Foundry here at Purdue, which is sort of an incubator for small businesses and new product ideas, to other things within our research and discovery parks. So Purdue University here in the Midwest is a real hotbed of innovation, and so Krannert in many ways comes alongside all of those different endeavors, and we're proud to, and I can share many success stories on MBAs or specialized master's program students who really, they came to Purdue for an MBA, and in some cases they walked out with an MBA at a particular startup that became very successful. So we understand ultimately, if you think about spending a large chunk of money for an advanced degree, then you want to get that money back, and we're really helping students be able to do that. That ultimately completes our conversation for today. I did have some people plug in and ask if we would make a recording of this available, and we will. And that's just send us an email to the Krannert Masters email there, or connect with us on social media. Stop by if you're in the area. We have lots of people on hand to help answer questions. And so with that, I want to thank you for joining us for today's session. On behalf of Wendy and Chris and Claudine, we appreciate you stopping by. So if you'd like to connect with us, please do. There are lots of folks on hand to help answer any questions.